Hello, every folks, and good morning. Welcome to something of an unexpected surprise. So, a few years back, there was a game that was recommended to me by a friend who was basically telling me the story about basically a Godzilla strategy game from forever ago called Godzilla War of the Monsters. Now, this is an interesting little thing here, basically an old NES game, where you're taking a lot of stuff from the movies and whatever else and doing this whole kind of strategy game kind of deal, where you're going and using all of these different monsters, sometimes as enemies, sometimes as allies. You're using your different machines and what have you from different parts of the series, and you're doing this just kind of various different scenarios. This wasn't like a Advanced Wars kind of thing. This was I don't know how you'd describe this, but it was a very unique kind of strategy experience that I know I've personally enjoyed going back to from time to time. Now, color me a bit shocked when out of nowhere, just like completely out of the dang blue, I end up getting a message yesterday for this. So I wouldn't go so far as to say that this is a like direct spiritual sequel, but given the name and given the subject matter and everything else, I'm kind of inclined to think that it is. Especially the fact that they went for a voxel art style here. So anyways, I was really happy to see this. So basically what we're looking at here, let's go ahead and show this right here, is we're actually looking at a... Yeah, let me just... Sorry, I had to go adjust the audio real quick. So essentially what we're looking at here is a Godzilla Into the Breach clone kind of situation. And it's fascinating what they've done with this concept. They took a similar approach to the whole, you want to make a strategy Godzilla thing. But what they've done is that they've applied a whole bunch of different stuff from Into the Breach in, like I was saying, fun ways. So, for example, right here at the start of the map, we have to clear this map in 2 turns. And we have a situation where we've got Godzilla. He's able to basically do the punch mech thing from ITB, where essentially he'll punch and knock back. So anytime they use an ability, you'll essentially see a little preview saying that they're going to do this exact thing. So like we see that this guy is going to attack this building. We can't reach this guy to stop him. But in order to get a perfect score on this map, we have to somehow find a way to stop him. So we see that there's 2 colors on this building. We have a we have a red and we have a gold. So we're gonna go ahead and punch this one. So gold is going to basically count as one of any token, and as you can see here, we have 2 different monsters from the series here that we can now summon in. Now we've got Rodan, who will essentially shoot something backwards. Think of this as the push mech, or we have something like the Angarius here, who is going to function like a beetle unit, and or the ram mech. So, and yes, I am going to keep calling everything by their mech names from Into the Breach, because you can tell the idea was basically, let's take that and Godzilla-ify it, and they've done it in a really fun way here. So what we're going to do is we take a look at this, and we have a rule here where if we summon in a friendly unit, they're able to attack, but they can't move. So we're going to put down a Rodan right there, and we're going to use him to push Godzilla over here to go melt that unit so that he doesn't attack. Now, these buildings are all covered in fungus, meaning that they are considered enemy units for the purpose of the game here. So we'll go ahead and end our turn right there, and we have to somehow kill all of this by turn 2. So what we're going to do is we're going to take Godzilla, we're going to have him hop his little happy butt over here. We're going to go ahead and meltify all of the fungus on that building, and now you can see that we can summon in another unit, and that would take care of one of them, but that wouldn't end this in 2 turns. So we're going to use Rodan's high movement over here to go over in this direction, and we're going to go ahead and use him to fire Godzilla in this direction, and then we're going to go ahead and have him spawn down Angarius over here. I should point out you can get multiples of all these units. And he's going to go ahead and attack this building, and that's going to go ahead and get us the win there. Now, I love this overall presentation. They're basically setting it up as like this kid gets a board game for all of these, old Godzilla movies or whatever else. And what's fascinating is that you have their house on some of the maps, and it will shake every time they walk by the house and stuff like that. There's just a lot of love you can tell went into this one, so I'd love to see that kind of stuff. Also, shockingly, I really was not expecting, Soho to actually put out games, so this was a very happy surprise. It's like, this is the one that I'm stuck on right now. I should point out, at any point, you can actually just pay these tickets. Essentially, every time that you play a map perfectly, you get 1 ticket to give you, essentially, cheats, and it would be 3 cheats to skip a map. So, like, right here, the way that I was originally thinking this would be approached is we would go over here, we would melt this building. I'm assuming this is already wrong right from the get-go. But that... Alright, so it's at this point that my mic decided to give out, and I never even noticed. Alright, so let's go ahead and continue on here. Now, I was struggling with this map for a little bit of a while. You see, on the surface, it seems like the answer is pretty obvious. You go ahead and you shoot your Godzilla over that way in order to have him break down those buildings, in order to break the 1 health building that was behind it, and then, you know, you spawn a second Rodan to fire him over to do the other thing to that other building in the back. However, this approach is a trap, and I really kind of like the amount of red herrings that they actually put into this game, where there's a lot of cases where just a solution may seem obvious, but it might potentially be a trick. And that's actually the nice thing about the hint system that they've got going on there, seeing as, you know, eventually you can just wind up in one of those situations where you're not sure, and honestly just spending 1 point would be enough to potentially just tell you, like, okay, no, this is at least where you start off, and I would say so far the majority of the time, that was probably enough to get the job done in the long run. See, in this particular case, my thought process was just that I couldn't end up throwing 2 units in the same direction there, that I couldn't essentially, like, I wouldn't be able to attack with Rodan and have him move on the same turn because, you know, of the whole spawning restriction thing. So ultimately, I ended up taking a kind of a suboptimal solution here, and we'll go back to how the hint system works in a moment for that, but... This is actually something that you'll see a whole lot of the time from something like Into the Breach, where you're just learning more and more and more and more of these different systems from your repeated failures, and like right here, you know, this solution was very clearly tailored to create a situation where if you didn't think about spawning your units in a different way, you would fail every time. What they wanted you to learn here was that you can essentially spawn your guys at any time in between turns. So, like right here, when I'm going and having Godzilla attack a thing, you know, clearly we want to spawn something right then and there. But we can also spawn any of our other 2 guys pretty much any other time. And that is to say, any time between 2 turns. So we don't specifically have to let a unit act first and then spawn, and that's basically what I was missing here. That the initial setup was working out just fine. This particular setup where it was taking out, you know, the 2 health building and then taking out the 1 health building in the back, that was doing the job just fine. The part that I was missing, however, was again just spawning a second Rodan off of the first one before their turn ever acted, allowing them both to move in tandem to the right locations. This is just something that, like, it wouldn't necessarily be the first thing that comes to mind, because I was going about this thinking about other solutions, like right here, trying to use a spawned enemy to see if maybe we could use them for better positioning, to maybe knock out the buildings, you know, get a few more units moving around. Because, you know, you'll see those kinds of tricks there as well. And again, coming from a lot of Into the Breach type of stuff, sometimes you'll be thinking that way, where you're specifically looking to spawn additional units, specifically to go and use them against each other. Hell, they have an entire team in that game dedicated around the concept of going and using enemies strictly against each other. And that didn't end up being the solution here, but again, that's kind of the neat thing about the whole hint deal, that so far it's doing a really good job of actually teaching these kind of little nuances to all of it, you know? But anyways, we'll get on to other maps, and I just love that it does that little falling apart voxel thing. It just looks cool, you know? It's nice. It's a very nice aesthetic to this one. So we ended up getting the 3 stars, but we didn't quite end up getting a perfect there, which is, quite frankly, simply unacceptable. Anyway, so then we go on to 2 birds, 1 stone, and again, another just very solidly designed scenario here. Where essentially the trick is that there is a parasitized Mothra over there. Essentially, think the artillery mech from Into the Breach, and they are going to be attacking in that AoE down there on the bottom. And how exactly are you going to use their particular projectiles against each other in order to make this all happen? So I'm actually going to go ahead and kind of try to edit it here a little bit. Okay, So, now we get on to the next section here. I'd gone ahead and gone back to this particular map in order to, in order to go and get it corrected here. So I just took a quick peek at the hints here, trying to figure out what on earth I was doing wrong, and it turns out, yeah, you can, spawn stuff in between turns. There was no need to have that one guy move into position and then spawn somebody. Honestly, kind of overlooking the obvious, but hey, you know what? You live, you learn, you figure out new tricks and what have you. And this takes us from basically a trick solution into a correctly done solution here. I do appreciate the work that goes in there. Given the number of times that I've run into a situation here where there's kind of an obvious wrong solution and then a one step back and everything kind of comes into focus type of situation, I want to say that this whole right and wrong kind of answer thing was very deliberately designed. I'm pretty sure that was no accident, because again, a lot of these seem to have a very particular answer. So in this particular case, this is a classic FTL type of, or not FTL, but Into the Breach type situation here, where you're looking to use the knockback. In this case, the Mothra larva is going to go and attack in an AoE splash here. It's essentially functioning like the artillery mech would, and we're going to essentially use the ram from our dinosaur here to damage the building, one health over there. We're going to use the splash to kill off the mushroom, as well as do a second bit of damage to that one empty building over there, which then gets both those problems resolved, and then we have a nice little domino effect. And then I was overlooking something, because at this point the buildings get to have 3 health. So, I was thinking, okay, we just go ahead and we send out the dinosaur to go deal with Mothra, just chuck them back into the mushroom spawn, go ahead and have Godzilla attack the building, which technically, yes, is the solution, but there's a 1 square difference between this being the actually correct solution and being wrong. Because the spawn from that tile will damage Mothra, but this ended up being the correct approach the second time around. This is one of the reasons that I was cutting it. Because, yeah, I was wondering what I was missing here, and sure enough, it was the fact that you need to go and let yourself get hit in order to hit that one building, and then let the spawn finish him off. Again, there's a very perfectionist type of gameplay to this particular puzzle, so hey, if that's your kind of thing, you're definitely going to love this. If you loved playing Into the Breach and you got annoyed at maybe some of the randomness, I know I personally love the randomness, but hey, I can really appreciate something like this too. Plus the whole kids game aesthetic is really funny here. I'm not really sure why they have that one arrow on the bottom right that kind of detaches from the board. That's kind of interesting. Wonder if that'll end up coming into play later. Anyway, this was another one that was kind of puzzling me for very kind of just missing the obvious types of reasons. So the puzzle that they're setting up here is to teach you how Mothra, or at least the larva Mothra, works, aka the artillery mech. So it's got a 1-tile dead zone, it fires in an area, does 1 damage, and then splashes on all things around. In this particular case, I kept thinking that I had to spawn it in front because I thought its range was limited. I have no idea why I would think this, because, again, considering it's based off the artillery mech, this would mean that its range is effectively till the end of the board. I don't know why Brain thought that, but Brain did a dumb. So I was here for an embarrassingly long time trying to figure out, I can only spawn, this Mothra on these 2 units. What gives? Why can't I figure out how to kill off that one guy in the back? Is there some mechanic I'm missing? Because if you do it wrong, you're just hitting the building and it doesn't actually kill the mushroom. If you hit the mountains, it actually doesn't do anything. The mountains seem to be immune from damage. I would assume this is just kind of intentional. They never really... As far as I recall, I don't think they blow up too many mountains in the Godzilla movies. It seems to always be buildings, which I guess kind of makes sense. Would be a lot harder to blow up a mountain, but hey, it is what it is. So I was here umming and awing over this particular solution, and I'm wondering if you can look at it and potentially see where I went wrong. Remember what I said earlier about infinite range? Where would it be really nice to be able to shoot from right now? There's only a 1-tile difference. I wonder how we get that 1 extra tile. I don't know. I don't think that my brain can figure it out in this particular situation. Seems a bit too complicated. So I literally went through and tried out every single one of these tiles over and over and over, until finally, after an embarrassingly long time, I just went and just did one of the hints there. I was like, what am I missing? What the hell am I possibly missing here? And it turns out, well, actually, you'll see it in a moment. I forgot that for some reason I thought I'd cut it a little bit more here. But yeah, I tried burninating mountains here, I tried burninating everything else, and yeah, unfortunately, that wasn't really giving the solution I was looking for here. It turns out that you can still, get those 3 from this particular tile, but that doesn't really solve our problem now, does it? So yeah, it helps to not ignore the obvious of, hey, just spawn the guy behind you, idiot. So, turned out that was the actual answer. Like, I even thought about it there. Like, I wonder if I can do it back there. No, it shows 3-tile range. I need a 3-tile range. Oh, it just goes to show you, like, every time with these strategy games, like, overthinking can really slap you upside the head sometimes. But again, this goes back to the same thing, and you keep trying, you keep trying, you keep trying until you eventually figure out the puzzle. So I thought maybe you're supposed to, collapse the mountains. Maybe you're supposed to move it around in some weird ways. Nope, definitely wasn't it. Maybe you're supposed to do that. Nope, all you do is give everybody a bit of a dust bath. Like, oh, maybe we put it there. I don't know why this would work. It didn't. It's fun to laugh at yourself in retrospect. So I went ahead and just, paid the rookie cost here, as it were. Like, just find Godzilla people, just tell me where I'm going wrong here. So, sure enough, first turn was absolutely right. All you gotta do is just move them forward and fire. So, I believe this was actually all the hint that was needed. Because then I was just thinking, like, wait a minute, I never actually tried... Oh, wait, no, they did spawn the thing behind. And then it just became clear of, like, yeah, he's not locked into 3-tile range. What are you thinking? So, anyways, yeah, ultimately that ended up being the solution. He shoots the little egg. The mushroom goes boom, because clearly, moths are just the enemy of mushrooms everywhere. Just kind of how it goes. I have to say, this game is very, 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 very cathartic as someone that really hates mushrooms. So there's that. So next few maps were relatively easy to figure out here. Let's see, they were really satisfying though, that's why I didn't end up cutting anything out here. So far all the maps have been pretty darn satisfying, but in most cases you can kind of puzzle out the solution here. So we see that there is one mushroom that's attempting to attack the building. We've got one wasp that's attempting to go attack the other building over there. He's going to fire on line, essentially the same thing as the wasps from ITB there. We see that there's going to be one spawn in the north, as well as a 2 health mushroom down on the south, as well as a 1 health mushroom at the top. Basically, it just seems to imply that we want to do the obvious thing with Godzilla. Like, it seems like every time, and this carries over to the multiplayer maps as well, but there's a very intentional design where Godzilla is essentially meant to be your sort of guide on how to get through this whole thing. Like, your entire rest of your strategy is entirely built around him. So essentially, he's supposed to be the one that's telling you, like, kind of quietly hinting you as to where you're supposed to go there. Where, like, for example, right here, we see that we need to get that one mushroom into the line of sight of that bee. So we get that guy melted out of the way, we go fire that guy over there, we fire the mushroom onwards. That's going to end up eliminating him, and it's going to leave the wasp intact, which then allows us to then potentially have one more turn where we're going to have one enemy available. Hopefully we can get the 2 enemies to go fire against each other, as well as moving our guy over there to collect that document. So we move our Godzilla over there, since he turned out to be a 3 health unit. That's going to go ahead and take him out right there, and we're going to go ahead and move our artillery over in order to take that document, and there we go. Done deal, all good to go, all nice and dandy. Now, these documents are basically going to function not quite the same as time pods in terms of your long-term strategy, because obviously your long-term strategy is just click on next map, but it does give you little background information. So the mushrooms are eroding buildings one after another. They're changing them into nests. That's what people here are calling them. There's no saving the buildings that have become nests. They have to be destroyed. AKA just like the mushroom, or not the mushrooms, but just like the Vec hives in the mountains over into the breach. So yeah, that... It is how it is there. Okay, so then we move on to the next map here, just again trying to get us a little bit more intimately acquainted with our new larva buddy here. So we've got B over there, kind of beyond the kind of scope of where we can potentially reach with Godzilla, so he's going to fire. get our little larva guy going. That's going to break down that thingamajig over there, which will then leave us in a position to go use him for positioning. Now, I love how they handle the second part of this map, because you can't actually reach the final mushroom, which again will always move to the same location here. But you can't actually move him far enough, and you would essentially lose a turn if you don't move him correctly. So, the way that they have it set up is that he will have just enough movement to be able to move over there. He'll then be able to reposition Godzilla over in order to then have enough movement to be able to get it done. If you're familiar with Into the Breach, this is going to feel very natural and very, very, very flowy. So I love that. I'm still loving the point system here. I'm hoping that I remembered to explain it earlier, but if you haven't cottoned on to the actual, I guess, mechanics of stuff going on here, you know, we're over here kind of collecting points in order to have available spawns, in order to have particular team members available at particular times, in order to go clear maps and what have you. Alright, so, lots and lots and lots of mushrooms in this particular place. This place is completely done for. They say that there's a damage status, but there is no stuff to save here, as kind of the funny thing. Anyway, so they're going to go ahead and roast that building. They're going to go ahead and send one dinosaur out to go deal with the building over there. So we're going to go ahead and spawn him over there, if I ever remember to actually click on it. There we go. Come on, past me. Click on the square. Do the thing. And then they go ahead and they ram it. I really like this selection of starting units, like the way that they handle it. I know that there's going to be some out there that are going to be like, oh no, cash grab, they copied an indie thing, how dare they, but like, this is a really fun application of the idea, and I want to point out, again, remember what we started with. This is... The way that this plays is in many ways kind of how they seem to have wanted to make War of the Monsters happen just like, what is it, decades ago at this point? That thing came out on the, like, friggin' NES, alright? It came out on the friggin' original Nintendo, and bear in mind, back in the day, obviously game design wasn't exactly as advanced or what have you, but when they were doing that one, there were a lot of cases where there were clearly units that were meant to counter specific things, and yeah, they would jank out every now and then, like you'd go get your X2 that was supposed to go reflect away a, you know, a beam from, like, frickin', like, King Ghidorah or whatever, and then it would just fail to do so, or the RNG wouldn't work out and you would just die. Like, it was definitely a bit of a janky game, but this definitely makes some interesting stuff happen. Like, this seems to be revisiting that same idea, except using a, you know, a more, I guess, more established formula to make that happen. And this is why I love that you have infinite restarts for misclicks, because I ended up misclicking it at the last minute, which would have been a bit unsatisfying if it was just kind of ending right there with slapping Godzilla against a mountain. We don't want to slap Godzilla, he's our buddy. Anyway, a very destructive buddy, but hey, he's our buddy all the same. Anyway, so that's going to go ahead and get us our perfect win there, get us our 4 stars and what have you. Well, 3 stars. Interestingly enough, if you go back, you get another one, but oh well. And then we get to our first boss fight, and again, same thing. They took... I love this boss music, by the way. I love that there even is boss music. I love this little detail that every time that you're walking by your house, which is that one with the red roof over there, you're getting the whole screen shake thing going on, implying all the stuff is just happening right outside the window. It's just a great little detail. But I love the fact that, again, this is essentially a very... how would you put it? This is a very curated version of Into the Breach, is kind of the way that I would put it, where, yeah, the answers are kind of going to be the same every time in terms of what the actual correct solution is, but coming to the correct solution is still very satisfying here. So, like in this particular case, he gets pushed backwards in order to go eliminate all of those buildings. Essentially, again, every map is a puzzle boss. So they're going to go ahead and eliminate that building. It doesn't give us any points, doesn't give us any additional spawns, but we did start off with a road in right from the get-go. That's going to go ahead and melt off all of those buildings. It's going to let one mushroom spawn, not too much we can do about that, but we can potentially cause him to damage himself. So, what we end up doing here is we're going to end up having you... we have Rodan go to the back, fires Godzilla across the map in order to then go fire this guy to go in that direction, which then allows us to spawn one more unit to then go ahead and push him backwards and then basically clear the rest of the map. Like, I love this. I love those kinds of puzzle strategy kind of stuff. And again, this is the same kind of stuff that's super satisfying about Into the Breach. And then they just kind of honed in on those really satisfying moments from ITB and just built the game around them. And that's a great way to do it. So in this particular case, what's happening is that I haven't noticed yet that there is an extra spawn available. This is, again, a very curated moment, because I see the 1 damage from that, I see the 2 damage from Godzilla, I'm missing that 1 fungus building at the very top, and I guarantee many players would, because you're focusing on the boss at that point, you think everything is cleared, you think you've messed up, and then suddenly it's like, oh, you have the larva right there to go ahead and solve the problem. Again, very curated there, very nice feeling system there. So I just love that. You can really tell somebody had their heart in making like a certain flow to the stages and what have you, you know? So I'm looking forward to seeing how the future stages go. This is just early impressions so far. Okay, so my mom's work had us moving to South America when I was in elementary school. She was a biologist and always seemed busy with her job, but when Dad disappeared, she had to raise me by herself. Because we moved a lot, I struggled to make friends, so I spent all my time playing with my figures in a world of make-believe. Actually, this was around the time those alien mushrooms I called were officially named fungoids. Well then, and I was mentioning at this point, I actually don't remember a fungoid plotline. My brother and I used to watch Godzilla movies growing up. I remember a lot of the fights. I don't necessarily remember a lot of the dialogue, but yeah, I don't remember anything about like alien fungus or what have you. Maybe that's a new thing. I don't know. There's a lot of new stuff that's been added over the years. But yeah, and at this point you may notice that, yeah, there's a multiplayer mode. There's multiplayer modes, there's custom maps. There's people going and making custom maps for this thing, and that's, like, it just gave me a heartwarming feeling to see that, you know? So we're going to try out one of these maps right here just to show you what we're looking at. I messed it up completely in terms of getting a clean win, but you can definitely see how the options are there. But yeah, very much a... based on what I saw of the maps, it definitely gave a sort of Little Big Planet vibe to when those servers were active. Just kind of given that feeling of you know, going and exploring these different maps and what have you. So I'm curious to see what kind of stuff people will come up with. I wonder if the Yahtzee spell drawing is in reference to the whatever that was on the original War of the Monsters, where like defend was spelled with too many F's or something. You gotta love old-timey misspellings and whatnot. But yeah. So in this particular case, they have a map where you've got 2 guys that are going to keep replicating. Your own party consists of your Godzilla. You've got King Ghidorah eggs, which will spawn and kind of attack in an AoE. You've got Destroyer that's going to function a little bit like visually. It seems to want to be the lightning mech, but this seems more like the I forget what it's called. It was like one of the gun mechs in that one. The Slug Shroom is basically the blob, or the blob enemies. King Ghidorah is basically the spider enemies, combined with one of the spinner enemies, and then Hedorah is basically the smoke mech, except it's poison instead of smoke. So essentially the smoke mech, but running on the what is it? The rusted hulks. So either way. Yeah, one of my favorite groups. I might be remembering that completely wrong, but essentially the Smoke Team was one of my favorites. Actually, no, the Mist Eaters. That's what I'm thinking of. They're the ones that have damage over time whenever an enemy's caught in a cloud. Rusted Hulks are the ones that just happen to spawn a lot of fog and don't exactly get as much benefit out of it. This is going to make no sense to anyone that hasn't played Into the Breach, but it's a damn fine game too. Alright. So, again, going with that same design philosophy as before of clearly your kind of main path denoter of where you're supposed to be going, there's a lot of assumptions that can be made over what's happening. And I kind of feel like the King Ghidorah eggs were actually a little bit of a trap in this particular case. Because I kind of cottoned on to the fact that you're supposed to go and, you know, trap those 2 over there. It seems like the optimal four-part solution here is actually to go and collect 4 of those spore selection thingies, get 2 artilleries, and then maybe get a 3rd artillery on the 3rd turn to clear them all out, because the Ghidorah eggs as well as Destroyer there just doesn't seem to actually do the trick for getting this, you know, getting this all cleared out, whereas the poison sprayer there seems to do the job really well. And I gotta say, I have loved this whole voxel style for quite a while. I wish it would be used more often. But this is, ever since playing 3D Dot Game Heroes a while ago, like, I've just loved this style. Again, it doesn't get used that often, which is a shame because it's a really fun style for a lot of different things. I mean, you usually got to do this kind of board game aesthetic kind of thing, but if they ever make another, ogre battle or something, I kind of hope that they go for this kind of style. And then just like carry over all of the original SNES sprites or something. Just like remake them as voxels. And I gotta say, I actually almost wonder if, like the pixel art for some of these things, I never actually checked one to one, but kind of looking at the original version, I almost want to say I can kind of see that maybe being done in some cases. I don't know. Anyway, as far as this King Ghidorah here, they are not helping us out very much at all, because clearly they would have a massive benefit in terms of spreading things, but you don't really have any opportunity to take advantage of that here. Anyway, so yeah, we just end up using the poison artillery that I should have done the whole time. But I'm curious to see what kind of other maps people will come up with, because this is just a really fun little concept. And I know I've seen people wanting a kind of custom map editor for Into the Breach for a while too, so this definitely seems like it would appeal to them folks as well, because it's, again, you're seeing a lot of the same stuff. I mean, you're not seeing the like random generation or what have you, but if you ever wanted a fixed version of that, yeah, that works really well in this case. In this case, I was just curious to see if I could maybe shoot past the mountain, which is a decisive no. But at the very least, we managed to win this right before the time limit expired, so it's something at least. Unfortunately, yeah, it wasn't quite a complete win here. While I got a few units into better positions or what have you, there's only so much that you can really do when you've messed up this profoundly by the end of it, you know? Basically, we've more or less poisoned that entire area, which definitely should have been done earlier. And then we just move our one last guy to go get our big dramatic camera panning shot, as it were. And that's just going to go ahead and finish off this map. So, I really love this as a concept. I really like how this game plays. It's really fun to me. I didn't actually check to see how much it was. Here, let me see if I can go look it up real quick while it's loading the next thing. Where is the store page? Okay. Voxel Wars, how much are you? I would imagine, like, what, 20-ish? Are you not released yet? No, it says it released October 31st, though. I was told that the thing is supposed to release on... Okay, it's 15 bucks. You know what? And yeah, this definitely feels like a quality puzzler for 15 bucks, no questions asked. And I've kind of run out of video at this point, but still. I personally think that this is a nice quality puzzler. I like it. You make your own decisions with your own dollars, but I thought it was a pretty darn fun experience. Alright, thank you guys for stopping by, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.